There's a comment that a person themselves opens the doors for demons.
Yes,
What's your view on this? And do you agree with that opinion?
I already agreed. That's right. The question is what to call demons. Obviously, it's something that a person defines for themselves. Nothing can happen to a person that they don't deserve. Not at all. A person may not understand why this happened to them. But there will definitely be causality. There is a law in our world that was created by the Creator. One of these laws is that how you treat the world is how the world treats you. All the situations that happen to us are within our power. But at the same time, we can convince ourselves that it's beyond our power and refuse to go through this situation, making our situation worse. We can argue passionately that I'm such a good person, but everything bad happens to me. But what should I say to him? You just don't see all the bad things you're doing. You're not looking in that direction, but you do that. And as soon as you see this, everything will become clear, obvious, and easy for you. And accessible. And it's this ease and accessibility of perceiving the real structure of the world and your actual interaction with it on all levels that allows a person to stop wasting their life on outrage, stop wasting their life on grievances, and stop wasting their life trying to find some kind of justice. He just sees that the world is actually perfect. There's just something off about him. And this something off can change pretty quickly because, again, you see that you're changing. You can't change what you don't recognize. And when you realize this, it changes quite easily. And so, when a person develops, not just physically, not just mentally, but also extrasensory, meaning their perception of energy develops, many things become obvious to them, things for which they might not find answers for decades, searching through all possible sources of information, books, sages, and so on.
What specific actions can a person take to open these doors?
It's really for the devil. With your actions and deeds, how you treat the world is how the world treats you. If you push too hard in something, it will crack sooner or later. And where it cracks, that's where the problems will start. It's the same way we open ourselves up to infecting our bodies. A wound, for example. You damaged your body, tore your skin, didn't treat the wound in time, and just let it be. First, there's inflammation, and then gangrene. It's the same here. You start to get all worked up. And after a while, you're dancing with a whole crowd of these entities.
So, for example, negative emotions, anger, rudeness, is that all?
Just an emotion.
Any emotion?
An emotion can't be positive or negative. And I understand that a lot of people will be outraged right now and say, well, joy is a good thing. Haven't you noticed that after a good moment of joy, something hits you on the back of the head? For example, I started noticing this since childhood, and I really started to think, how does that happen? Before, I wasn't doing anything bad, I was just laughing like a horse, and I felt good. And the next day, there are a bunch of problems. Any emotion, any... And to hear me, you need to practice. Because without extrasensory perception, the brain just can't grasp it. The brain doesn't have the mechanisms to understand how that works. And extrasensory perception brings awareness and vision easily, helping to understand how it happens that any emotion is already a potential path to problems.
Let's move on to the next comments. There were quite a few similar statements. I'll read some of them. Maybe humanity is just a battery farm, serving the needs of another civilization. You might think that no one is aware that, essentially, people are just food. But here's the problem. This is definitely not for the Matrix, and you know for whom. Another comment? I agree with you. We really are food for the Dark Ones. They've been feeding on our emotions for over 1,000 years, just like with animals. But human energy is the best, the sweetest. Anton, how would you comment on that?
Well, if people like to play, then let them play those games.
There were a lot of people who wrote about this.
Yeah, I know. These defeatist attitudes, that I'm just a battery, that I'm incapable of anything, that some dark forces are feeding on me, it's just an excuse for one's own worthlessness. If a person didn't waste time on this, they would just go and achieve what they actually need in general. He would achieve what he actually gets up for every morning. He would achieve what he actually feeds his body for, dresses it, and earns money for. If he didn't focus his attention on certain aspects of this reality, and didn't use those aspects to justify his problems, he would calmly live alongside it. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm saying that this stops some people. while others it can't stop. And I also say that the way you treat the world is how the world treats you. So that your physical body lives, you eat. If you're trying to justify yourself by saying that you eat plants, you're still killing plants. You're still committing that act of killing. You are still a part of death. And accordingly, when you eat, you are also being eaten, because the mechanism of mutual consumption runs through our entire universe. That's right. For a star to ignite and for planets and life to form around it, it first pulls in clouds of gas. It pulls in, heats up, compresses, and at some point it ignites. Yes, that's the reality. Yes, it's structured that way. Yes, there are forces and structures that feed off humans, and there are people whom these forces and structures cannot feed on. And these people are relatively free from these forces and structures. There are people who work like slaves in a free society, and there are people for whom others work like slaves. Where do you find yourself in all of this? And you are exactly where you focus your attention. If you focus on the fact that you are food in the food chain, there's no way for you to escape that image. And it doesn't matter at all whether you like it or not, whether you're outraged to the core, or if you've come to terms with it, you're trapped, your attention is caught. I know very well that these mechanisms exist. And it doesn't matter at all whether you like it or not, whether you're outraged to the core, or if you've come to terms with it, you're trapped, your attention is caught. I know perfectly well that these mechanisms exist. I refuse to be a battery. Others are parasitized. I'm not them. Even though I can be next to someone who is currently a battery, and I can see how other beings are parasitizing on them. But I'm not them. I have my own path. But I'm not him. I have my own path. And when a person studies this world, studies it from many angles, suddenly it turns out that no one is even forcing you to be that battery. You're just what you are because you can't see anything else. And if you slightly expand your perception, you might say, wait, maybe I can be someone else for a while. And they'll really say, yeah, just be. There are no problems at all. Look, there are already a bunch of people who have made that choice. Go to them, become someone else. So yes, that definitely exists. Yes, there is a structure that preys on people, but there are people with whom these structures can't do anything at all. These are people who know their true nature, who understand how this world works. Do you want to become that kind of person? You need to develop your extrasensory abilities, you need to train, you need to practice, you need to exercise, and cultivate that skill. And those people who have that skill don't even pay attention to such things.
One of your listeners is writing, if you've really achieved something, then show it. Change the world. Make it perfect. I played these games. Stop the war between Russia and Ukraine. Too weak. Everything else is just chatter. Everything you've said, I've read from others. What's new? Christ said, just show your divinity? Well, show it, don't just talk. Why do many people think that expressing their divine nature is only about, let's say, peace in the whole world, and aren't ready to accept other aspects that might be, let's say, negative? Maybe that's how our brain is wired, our defense mechanism, consciousness on a human level.
You know, I just heard this person's question, and their position is quite interesting. The position is completely selfish. Do it the way I want. Do it the way I think is right. Don't even really teach me to absolutely achieve what I want. Just do it for me. Because why should I do what someone else wants? I'm realizing my intention. My intention is to get out of here. I don't see any point in putting things in order where I am. Because here, that order is created by the Creator. The world is harmonious. The world is perfect. Everyone is a place in the sun. Yes, there's a war. And when was it not there? There have always been people who wanted to fight. So, one person has a whim right now. I want this to stop. Go and do it. I have to go. And break the free will of a huge number of people to make them stop. Yes, there are those who end up there against their will. There are those who end up there for money, who want to be there, who find it beneficial to be there. So how many people am I supposed to impose on now to make them do what one person wants? I think that's a very selfish position. And living from that position is extremely disadvantageous in the space we're in right now. I'll say it again. On our planet, in our reality, there's a place for everyone under the sun. And if someone is punishing or even killing someone, it's not God doing it. but mostly another person.
But how can an ordinary person accept the fact of war? How can one relate to this calmly, neutrally, without directing their attention there?
Well, the first thing he needs to do is ask himself how he ended up there. For example, when all of this was just starting, I saw a huge number of aggressive people who were eager for a fight. Here they got it. If someone has reconsidered their position now, as soon as those people become the majority, it will all stop, and it will flare up somewhere else. I think it's already obvious to everyone where this will flare up next, in another place, and with such a flame that the current war will seem like a fairy tale.
Continuing on the topic, there's this comment. So it turns out that Russia, while it was minding its own business in its Sodom and Gomorrah, disturbed the peace and quiet of its neighbors. So, is divine retribution waiting for her? But where is it? If that doesn't happen, then that person's knowledge isn't worth much. Anton, what's your take on this? Is there retribution, and can it await Russia and the world as a whole?
I really don't understand the position of the person asking these questions. I never talked about divine retribution. He himself writes that there is no retribution. I'm saying that there won't be any retribution. Everything is harmonious. Everything is as it should be. And after that, I end up being the one at fault. And what you still don't know. How does this even work? How is it arranged in his head? Well, let's just ponder for a bit. Look, I'm saying the whole world is harmonious. And if you're going to change something, it should only be yourself. A person writes that there will be no retribution in Russia. Well, then there won't be. Because the whole world is harmonious. Everyone does what they want. Where do these claims come from? So, we see a person right now who contradicts himself, who imposes on me something that I don't have. So he's making it all up himself. He's trying to blame me for not saying the word. He's trying to attach an image to me that I don't actually represent. And right now, he's in the thick of things, in the middle of the fighting. And so the question arises, how did he end up like that? Yeah, it's just his nature. He can't live in peace. That's why he ended up there. At the same time, there are a huge number of people, both from Russia and Ukraine, who live outside of this war, who even communicate and cooperate. For them, this war doesn't exist. But for this person, this war exists. So the problem is with whom? With those who have it. Because we have a ton of other examples too. And if we look just a little bit back into the history of the Russian state, we suddenly find out that this is a state that has been almost permanently at war. There hasn't been a day when Russia hasn't been at war with someone, somewhere. Why is that? Well, that's how it is. At the same time, there are people who were born somewhere on their street. During the first Chechen War, nothing happened there. The second one happened there too. The Russian-Georgian War happened on this street. The Russian-Ukrainian War also happened on this street, and nothing happens to them. And for them, it's like it doesn't even exist. There's a place for everyone. Where you end up depends only on you. Only on you? And war is a normal state of society. It's pretty simple to read history. It's the norm for our world.
One of your students left quite a detailed comment. I want to thank Anton for the wonderful course that helps me change my life. Last week I got really sick, and I don't want to go to the doctors. I decided to treat myself with folk remedies and other methods. I opened the fourth gates and lay in them for 2 days. Today I'm practically like a cucumber, full of energy and in a great mood. Not only that, but I got to work and there were 3 amazing pieces of news waiting for me. Nice bonuses fell out from the gates. It's just a fairy tale. Anton, a pretty common and important request from your listeners is strengthening their health. Time and again, experience and practice show that working with energy is the foundation for healing the body and strengthening it. And this is the first thing you need to start working on to achieve positive results on a physical level. Could you please tell us a bit more about this practice that the girl writes about? Opening the 4th gates? And what results can be achieved?
This girl is studying with me. She has a great command of energy, and she fully understands the nature of a person and the nature of the universe. And by mastering this, she took actions that led to good outcomes. Just because she described it in one sentence doesn't mean that anyone who reads it and repeats it will succeed. No, it won't work. That's not how it works. It's the same as, I came to you. There was even a joke about it. I'll tell you now. Well, it's more of a parable than a joke, really. A TV master comes to a person. He says, well, the TV is broken. It doesn't pick up any signal. He looked around, fiddled a bit, took out a small hammer, and gave it a little tap on the side. And just like that, the TV turned on. He goes, wow, that's great. How much do I owe you for the repair? He says, 10,000. Just a second. 10,000 for a little tap with a hammer. He says, no, the little tap with the hammer is a gift for you. But knowing with what force and where to hit is worth 10,000. And here it's the same. The man has already written, as it were, the result of all this, the result of his work, the result of his labor, that yes, I have opened the fourth gate and received the result, because it cannot be otherwise. But if a person doesn't understand at all what we're talking about, doesn't get what's happening right now, and is just like, just tell me where these fourth gates are, I'll open them right now. No, you'll just be banging milk on the TV, and it'll break even more. You need to be aware of this. You need to feel it. You need to be able to do it. Then it works. If you don't know how to do this, like, just give me one thing, and I'll make it all work, it won't work that way. From the very beginning, we develop ourselves, step by step, calmly and carefully. And in any life situation, you absolutely know what needs to be done. And you even know in advance that this situation will come up. In advance. So many people have written to me, Anton, we finally figured out where the problems are coming from. They actually get reborn on energetic levels, and they look this way and that. This is an extrasensory, this is a person who practiced. And now every time we notice these things, people write to me, well, we already know what to do. We loosen up, relax, let go. So if I tell someone who's having problems, just loosen up, relax, let go, and everything will be fine. No, nothing will get better. It'll actually get worse for him. And when a person masters this, he will tell you himself what to do to make everything all right. But he knows how to do it. So you need to learn, not try to find that magic pill. It will solve all my problems right now. And so a person who masters their energy, well, they don't even have anything to heal from anymore. While he was training, all those problems went away. Illnesses disappeared. Dream of discovering true nature. There's nothing left to heal. It's all done. But for a person who's dreaming of healing, it would be better for him to dream about discovering his true nature and the nature of the universe.
And in which course is this practice? Do you have a few?
About the gates. Yes, I can share everything right from the first course. I can even say more. I periodically have open meetings, webinars, broadcasts, and a bunch of different activities where I demonstrate exercises and practices that are included in my course. It's all gathered in a convenient format in my course. Order. But these practices can basically be found all over the internet. They're open.
It's now in the first course.
Not all of them. Not all of them. I've already shown the gates. The first course, it's all there right from the very beginning.
We'll leave the link to the course in the description below the video. Thank you, Anton, for the answers. Make sure to share your impressions and questions. We'll try to answer them in the next video.